Welcome to day 2, everybody. Before we move into today, I would just like to take a moment this morning to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and also pay my respects to those in the room with us today, and those we know, those who've come before us and after us. And I'm so excited. I won't do the introductions, but we have a beautiful first keynote this morning from Selena and Klair. So Michael will do those introductions soon. Do you want to come over?
Sure.
Yeah?
Good morning, everybody. How are we? Yay! Yay, exactly. Everybody stand up.
Yeah, I think we need a bit more energy today, don't we? Yeah. It's a lot, you know.
We are going to keeping you sitting down for quite a while. So what I'd like everybody to do is just put their hands in front of them and cross them in front of you. Take a really deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And now we're going to pretend like we're the Wiggles. I want everyone just to shake around a little bit. Stretch up into the air. And you can sit down again. Thank you very much. Give yourselves a clap. Yeah. I guess one of the things that we just really need to be mindful of is that sitting down for a long time can actually have a bit of an effect on the mood that we're in. So if you're feeling a little bit flat or you need to get up and walk around, please feel free to do that. But obviously we want you to take away as much as you can from the speakers that we have each day. Who came to the dinner last night? Thumbs up. Who had a good time? Yes. I'm just going to have a little bit of a recap. So first of all, we had dinner, so that was kind of nice. And I think everyone would agree the meals were pretty good. Yes? Yeah, cool. One person? Okay. And then afterwards, we had the open mic session, which was very kindly organised by Helena and Harim. I can't see him anywhere, but I just wanted to personally thank both of you for the effort you put into that last night. And then with the open mic, we had some amazing people actually step right out of their comfort zone and actually share a little piece of themselves with us. So I'm just going to quickly run through some of the things that we had the privilege of witnessing last night. So first up, we had our lovely Amanda and Danny, her husband, up on stage playing and singing. And they played us 2 of their favourite songs, which I thought was really touching, and it really showed from someone who's known Amanda for a little while, another side of Amanda that I didn't actually know existed. And there is a voice in there that we all should hear. Right. Following that, we had Louisa. I'm going to try and find, I think she's here. Yeah, there she is. Louisa read a beautiful poem and then sang a lullaby. And I unfortunately, I didn't pick up the Indian tribe that this came from. The Coda tribe, yeah, but it was absolutely beautiful, and she accompanied it with a hand drum, which was really amazing to watch. And so, thank you for sharing that with you. That was with us, I should say. That was amazing. We have a number of budding poets amongst us, and the first 2, Trish and Mel, really showed a side of themselves right from their heart. They were both beautiful poems, and they shared a very inspirational part of themselves with us, which was incredible. And then we had Zoe pop up. Now, for those of you that didn't catch it yesterday, Zoe has been gracious enough to make some gifts for our presenters, and she actually showed us her latest creation last night and told us a little bit of the story around how she uses recycled materials to actually make the stuff that she does. Incredibly powerful, just a very talented young lady. So Zoe, thank you very much for that as well. And then we had Indigo come and give us a poem. And it was quite and I'm going to read this because I was taking lots of notes while she was talking, but her angry suicide note to herself. It was a label-laden poem talking about death and mindfulness, colouring books, hands, guns, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It was really, really powerful, and again, it just came from a dark place within herself. Thankfully, it's a poem. Yeah. Justine shared some life experiences with us. She talked about her family and I think the words she used, the absurdity and the beauty of life as we travel along. Beck shared a love letter to her mother, which was kind of powerful as well. Not kind of, it was very powerful and very much from the heart. And then Raheem, to close out the night, actually shared with us a poem that he'd written, and he'd only ever shared it with one person, but he shared it with all of us last night, and that was really, really amazing. And I don't want to leave her out, but I've saved the best to last. Helena shared a song with us, and it was a song that meant a lot to her, and it kind of depicted a stage in her life where obviously she needed to make some changes, forced or otherwise, and the vulnerability that came through that song, no accompaniment, just the voice, really warmed everybody's heart. So to all of those people that actually plucked up the courage, or I forgot Paul. Okay, I forgot Paul. How can I forget Paul? He's one of my students. So, yes, I forgot Paul, and Paul, I do apologise. So Paul actually shared a song that was very close to his heart. It was actually written for his son at a time in Paul's life where he actually lost contact with his son. And then he actually managed to sing that song to his son almost 15, 18 years later. And then he shared that with us last night as well. Not only is he a great student, but he's got an incredible voice as well. So, yeah. So, again, thank you to everybody that participated last night.
Okay. Just a few things before we get into our speakers for the day. Thank you so much for that, though. I feel like I was there, even though I wasn't there. And in the essence of openness and vulnerability, I have a migraine today, so if I stumble over my words, that's why. But I'll do the best that I can and pass over if I need to. So as we move into today, I just want to remind everybody to please seek out the QLEWN volunteers if you need to. We have the quiet spaces available on the ground level and up on level 2 as well. And also to remember to get out to the tray tables. I've been told no one wants to take anything home. So please, please go to the powering up table, please go out to the tray tables and take it all. That's what your white bags are for. Also there will be a raffle ticket. Oh, this is exciting. So at the QLEWN tray table outside, put a raffle ticket in. There is an opportunity to win 5 years membership, and that will be drawn at the end of today. So please get out and do that. We also have the beautiful Cara taking photos for us over the 2 days. And Cara, would you like to stand up so everyone knows who you are? Oh, okay. Maybe not. Cara might come to your table today. And it'd be really nice if you like being in photos to just get in the photo. And if you don't, that's okay too. It's really up to you. But we thought, what did you say, Amanda? We're making memories. So it'd be nice to have some. So if that's something that you would be open to as Cara comes around the room today, that will be available. With that said, I would actually like to introduce the chair of QLEWN, Brooke Starr, to come up and start today for us.
Hello everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Lisa. Some of you may know me and some of you may not. I am the current chairperson for QLEWN Management Committee. I identify as a person with direct and significant lived experience. I've worked in the sector in a range of designated lived experience roles for well over a decade now. And I'm currently working for an organisation called Communify in a senior lived experience leadership role. So it's a real pleasure to be here with you all, and I know how few opportunities there are these days for us all to come together and feel that sense of belonging, to learn from one another and support one another in the incredible work that we're doing to contribute to systemic and social change. And I'm terrible on the stage, I just want to say that. I'm very terribly nervous. On behalf of QLEWN and the Management Committee, I would like to acknowledge our funders, the Queensland Mental Health Commission, and also our sponsors, Malik, Queensland Alliance for Mental Health, the combined Queensland PHNs, EDQ and the Sunshine Coast Brain and Mind Hub. Without the support of all these organisations, these 2 days would not be possible. The Lived Experience Workforce Summit has been in the making for over a year, and it is important for us to, it was very important for us to co-design a Lived Experience Workforce Summit by the Lived Experience Workforce for the Lived Experience Workforce. We recognised to do this we would need help, so we engaged the support of 9 partner organisations forming the Lived Experience Summit Working Group. We have representatives from Arafmi, Malik, Quiver, Community Focus, Roses in the Ocean, Quinn, Communify, the Y-Bay MHSS, and the Queensland Mental Health Commission, who met regularly over the last year to co-design, co-plan and co-deliver the Lived Experience Workforce Summit. Many of these people are here today, and I'd just like to give them a round of applause for all their hard work. So we've worked very hard to include in our planning stage the diversity of our workforce, which represents from the mental health, alcohol and other drug sector and the suicide prevention sectors. Events like these just don't happen. It has taken a whole village to pull this together. I would also like to stop to acknowledge the contribution of Amanda Haberman and her countless hours of work, her dedication and her leadership. Without this, we would not all be here today. As a movement, the Lived Experience Workforce, new and not so new workers, we are driven to get what we need. In doing so, we have created a unique opportunity to connect and learn together. We hope that this will become a regular event in years to come. Our reach was always for our state, the Queensland workforce, but it has been a delight to see the interest from all over Australia, and we welcome our interstate visitors to our beautiful Sunshine Coast. One thing we have been very clear about from the beginning was that we were going to do this summit differently and do it our way. We wanted to hold the event outside of Brisbane. This is what our rural, regional and remote lived experience workforce have been asking for forever. Instead of calling for abstracts, we wanted engaging skill-based workshops, and we hope we have met you with providing topics you, the workforce, had asked for and wanted to hear about more. We are thrilled with the amazing lineup of lived experience workforce leaders, speakers and presenters we have gathered for you all over these 2 days. I know for many of us, this marks a milestone in a very long journey. We do stand on the shoulders of giants, and one day, in the distant future, others who come after us will stand on our shoulders also. With the work that we are doing right now to continue to progress our movement, we have our discipline as well acknowledged for what it is, contributes and what it contributes to the people. We represent the work with and the change we fight for every day in both loud and quiet ways. This work and the movement is very close to my heart. Over a decade ago, when I was a very green peer worker, I was in a conversation on a back deck, maybe a dreaming that happened, at someone's house in Barden. Between 5 people, that conversation was about what together we are building now for our workforce and the changes we could contribute to in our system through our lived experience and lived expertise. To me, the progression has been slower than I would have liked and sometimes tiresome. And then I come to events like this and reflect back and see how far we have come and we do still have a ways to go. And the only way forward is together, as a collective. The only way forward is to be a true point of difference in the systems we work in and exist in through embodying our values. I want to acknowledge the important work that is being done and supported to start to embed this work. As the workforce, it is important that we get behind this work and advocate for this to be standard practice. Yesterday, Louise presented her work and shared how this is accessible for all people in our organisations in Queensland to access. It is also essential that we get behind and contribute to our lived experience peaks. Our peaks are there to advocate for our workforce and for our people. For this to happen, we need our workforce to not only support us, but also get involved by providing feedback, raising issues, so we can work alongside of you all and continue to progress the work we are all doing. I want to sincerely thank all of the keynotes, the workshop presenters, and all of you that have come along and made this event so very meaningful. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Brooke, and that's kind of a nice segue just for us to just cast our thoughts back to those people who've worked before us in this movement, but also in lived experience. The wisdom, the knowledge that we are working upon, the wisdom and knowledge that is in this room, and the wisdom and knowledge that will come after us. It is a great, I was going to say system, but it's just a great movement to be a part of, and we do generally make a difference. I'm sure I'm not alone thinking back with some of the people that I've worked with over time, and seeing them when we first meet them, and then seeing them when they leave the service or they're no longer engaged with us, and just the difference in those people because of the impact that we've been able to have by using our lived experience and sharing our knowledge, our wisdom, and hopefully providing some inspiration to those people to take our places in time to come. So, yeah, thank all of you for everything you do every day. All right, a couple of little things more as far as housekeeping are concerned. There is a designated smoking area, okay, so it's just outside behind the cafe. There are, I believe, chairs and also ashtrays out there now. So if you do need to go somewhere to have a cigarette, please make yourself available to that. I've just been asked to remind you that we have a powering up table down in the back corner of the room here. There are lots of freebies on that table, people. Go and take them home, because we don't want to. That's pretty much it. And then the other thing that I just wanted to remind everybody about, we've got 3 keynote speakers joining us this afternoon on this stage, okay? And that'll be the opportunity to put questions to those people, but we need to get those questions in writing. And we've actually put the questions for the powering up session this afternoon, or the box for it, I should say, down near the door. Tamara's just waving, so everybody look over to where Tamara is. If you could think about the presentations that you hear today, or the ones that you've heard up until today, and then put some questions together, please put them in that box so that we can at least have a chance to address them for you. So, cool. All right. Okay, so it's time for our first keynote speakers today. And we've got 2 wonderful people who are going to deliver an address to us. The first person is Selena King. Selena has worked across the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander sector for over 25 years, servicing community, government, both states and federal, and the non-government sector. She is a staunch advocate for community control and the return of decision-making into the hands of service users. Selena believes non-Indigenous Australia has a responsibility to enable First Nations people to pioneer their own futures. Kind of sounds like peer work, doesn't it? Yeah. Selena has developed significant and deep relationships across Australia, across the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leadership sector and the community through utilising her diverse skill sets across workforce, leadership and development, and community engagement to drive meaningful and sustainable change. In Selena's words, as a country, we are lucky enough to work and live alongside the oldest living culture in the world. As individuals and collectives, we have a responsibility to cultivate new environments that will enable our First Nations people to drive their own self-determined aspirations across economic and social hierarchies. She considers herself privileged to be part of that journey. So Selena's our first speaker. The second speaker we'll have up here today is Klair Carney. So Klair is a proud woman from the Wiradjuri and South Sea Islanders people of central New South Wales and also Proserpine in Queensland. She was raised in Ngunnawal country in Canberra and lives now at Yugambeth country on the Gold Coast. Klair has worked for 12 years, predominantly in the health and community sectors, however, always within the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander services progressing outcome for her mob. As an Aboriginal woman, Klair brings invaluable lived experience, deeply rooted in her cultural identity and community connections. Her perspective offers unique insights into the challenges and strengths of First Nations people, enabling her to contribute authentically and culturally safe and inclusive practices within the lived experience and living experience workforce. In Klair's words, I am passionate about ensuring cultural integrity at the heart of everything I do. My work is guided by the need to create safe, inclusive and empowering spaces where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have their voices heard, respected and celebrated. It's about enabling real change that strengthens our people and communities for generations to come. Please join me in welcoming Selena and Klair to the stage.
Yep. Good morning, everyone.
Sorry, we're just trying to get to next slide.
Sorry, having some technical difficulties this morning.
You can see.
Here we go.
Before we go into this, we might, sorry.
Here we go. So Yiridu Marang Mujigalang, Yuanyadi Klair Carney, Dirmata Linya Bardu Wiradjuri Mulungun. Good morning and hello, my name is Klair Carney. I am a proud Wiradjuri woman from northwest New South Wales, this beautiful little town right on the Murrumbidgee River called Darlington Point. As was mentioned in my bio, I grew up on Ngunnawal country in Canberra and now live just down the highway on beautiful Yugambeh country on the Gold Coast. As you said, I've spent over a decade working in health and community sectors and always within Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander services. My lived experience as an Aboriginal woman, as someone who has survived mental health and trauma, I use those experiences in everything that I do, in every interaction that I have. I am passionate and it drives my passion for creating safe, inclusive and empowering spaces for First Nations voices. I believe in the power of storytelling to drive change, build understanding and strengthen communities for generations to come.
Excellent, thanks Klair. Thank you, really wonderful to be here today. Just want to acknowledge the Queensland Mental Health Commission. We have, as a business, as an Aboriginal business, been engaged by them to develop an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander framework for the lived experience workforce. So really privileged to be a part of this and certainly to be at the conference today. My name's Selena. I'm a principal at QLEWN Group. So we're an Aboriginal business based in Queensland, but we work nationally. And look, I'm a non-Indigenous woman. I have, pretty much dedicated my career to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander sector. And we were really privileged to be asked by QLEWN to come up here today and talk a little bit about not only this framework from a co-design perspective, but a little bit about what makes us tick as a business. So in terms of thinking, what are we going to talk about today? How can we sort of share lived experience and contribute to the framework? We were talking around titles, and one thing we discussed was the power of storytelling. and certainly from the perspective of First Nations people being the oldest living storytellers in the world, we thought it would be key to discuss stories. And by that I mean the narratives that we tell ourselves individually, the stories that consume us, control us, the power to change the stories. And I think that's the beauty of the lived experience workforce, the power to work together to create change. And we certainly know that in this country we're on a change trajectory. Sometimes it's going backwards, sometimes it's going forward. Certainly in my experience within the sector and obviously working as part of the business, we see devastating losses and change, but then we see incremental gains which connect us to the story of this country.
So we'd like to start today with the acknowledgement of country. We would like to begin today by acknowledging the Kabi Kabi and Jinibari peoples and recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of Australia's lands and waterways. We would like to pay our respects to the Kabi Kabi and Jinibari elders of the past and those of today who have enabled us to be here with you. We also acknowledge the dispossession of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from our lands, the dispersal and relocation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, the erosion of traditional customs and languages, and the removal of children from our families, which has resulted in the disconnection of generations of families from traditional homelands, languages and culture. And that healing of intergenerational trauma is required for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in order for our country to heal and for all its people to heal together.
We also pay our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders of the past who have laid the foundations for survival and prosperity, those of the present who stand tall against adversity every single day, those of the future, for they hold the stories, culture and traditions of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today, we pay our respects to the elders of your country, and to all non-Indigenous allies. We also acknowledge and respect your reconciliation journey to create enduring change. I also want to acknowledge the lived experience workforce and the importance of this workforce in changing the narrative for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Can I just ask, before we go forward, did anyone notice anything different about that acknowledgement? Has anyone heard an acknowledgement like that before? I'm seeing some yeses, I'm seeing some no's. I think when we, as a business, pulled together an acknowledgement, and you know, we use this in lots of different settings, one of the important things for us was about incorporating truth into acknowledgements and that real recognition of where we've come from. I think also telling a bit of a story, because the story hasn't finished. The story is still continuing, and hopefully uniting people together can be a part of moving that story forward. So again, coming back to the premise of storytelling and creating the narrative and story in terms of where we're heading. The country, as we know it, and as I think most of us would see, is not where it needs to be. And it's very much linked into the story of our country and the story of traditional custodians. Where do we come from? Where have we been? Where are we going to? For us, in all the work that we do, it's about creating a new story of growth and shared unity, and also looking at the story of us as a country. How are we moving together, and where are we going? What direction are we going in? But, like all good stories, let's start at the beginning.
Living in balance and harmony, our culture and traditional ways thrived. We lived in abundance, no greed or living in excess. We only ever took what we needed and always planned for our future generations. We were from all across Australia, including saltwater, freshwater, rainforest and desert country. We had different languages, cultural protocols, traditions and ways of doing things.
We had sophisticated kinship structures with skin names indicating a person's bloodline and carried information about how generations were linked. Our customary law governed all aspects of life, and we had defined roles and responsibilities to country through our totems. A spiritual emblem, often a plant or animal, giving everyone a responsibility to conserve the environment. We were strong in identity and belonging, and no matter how different we were, from all across this land, we always put culture, country, and each other first.
But then, everything changed. British settlement happened, and our country was colonised. We experienced frontier wars through conflict, including organised battles and open massacres when our people resisted early settlers. These battles of the frontier wars lasted over 140 years. We also experienced disease and famine, all of which reduced our population from over 1 million Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to less than 100,000. Our story is one of pain, deep hurt, and intergenerational trauma. This is the psychological and physiological effects of trauma transferring from one generation to the next.
Our story is also one of survival, resilience, and amazing strength. Our strength comes from knowing who we are and where we come from. Our population is now almost back to pre-colonisation numbers of around 1 million people. We have learned to balance our cultural obligations and traditional ways of living with the expectations and responsibilities of Western society.
Today we can also look a little different on the outside and sound a little different, especially if we don't know our traditional language. Some of us were lucky enough to grow up with culture, and some of us were forcibly removed and denied our culture. Some of us have dark skin, some of us have light skin, and some of us are everything in between. But our blood will always be Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. Our heart will always be true to our culture, our country, and our people.
For over 60,000 years, our people have been the caretakers of the world's oldest living culture. Our stories are not just words, they are law, they are knowledge, they are the foundation of our identity. In many cultures, history was written in books, but for us First Nations people, history is spoken. It is sung, it is danced, it is painted, and it is embedded in the country itself. Our dreaming stories tell us how the land was created, how we are connected to it, and how we must care for it. Our songlines stretch across vast landscapes, carrying knowledge of trade routes, sacred sites, and important life lessons. Our oral histories are passed down from elders to young people, ensuring that knowledge, culture, and identity remain strong. But storytelling in our culture is not just about the past, it is also about responsibility. Our customs and values shape how stories are shared. Respect. We listen deeply and with open hearts. Reciprocity. We give back when we receive knowledge. Responsibility. We carry our stories with care, knowing they shape the next generations. Storytelling is how we teach. Storytelling is how we change. And storytelling is how we heal. And today, as we talk about the power of storytelling and lived experience, we're not just following the Western model of advocacy. We're continuing the tradition of storytelling that our ancestors have practiced for tens of thousands of years.
Has anyone seen this social emotional health and wellbeing wheel? Yeah, I can see some nods. Look, this is it's not an emerging wheel, it's a well it's well evidence-based. IATSIS in Canberra have endorsed this wheel as well. So really it's a model of social and emotional wellbeing. And look, this is something that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and communities have been instinctively integrating within their health services and ways of healing for hundreds of years. So essentially, this is about the integrated self, a holistic concept of health and wellbeing. So obviously you've got the self in the middle, and it is about integrating in terms of all those domains, so connection to body, connection to mind and emotions, family and kinship, community, culture, country, spirit, spirituality, and ancestors. And First Nations people believe that when there is illness, whether it be in the body or spiritually, emotionally, mentally, it's about something missing in terms of that overall holistic concept. Now, obviously, in terms of how our health plays out, it can be also impacted by political determinants, historical determinants, and social determinants. And just a little bit of truth to share with the crowd here. We have recently had to do some sort of data mining in terms of the socioeconomic status of Aboriginal communities, and also more broadly against the population nationally. Part of that part of our research has uncovered, and this is in the most recent ABS stats. So we looked at the most advantaged communities in Australia, the 10 top most advantaged communities in Australia, and the 10 most disadvantaged communities in Australia. Now the top 10, this is not using any indicators such as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, it's just looking at it broadly. So the top 10 most advantaged communities in Australia, I think 5 or 6 of them are in New South Wales, sort of north, around that sort of Sydney area, and then the other 4 are Western Australia. The most disadvantaged communities in Australia, 6 of them are in Queensland, all of them are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. 4 of them are in NT, also Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. That really floored us in terms of the most recent stats. Every single one of those communities either comes from a missionary background or was part of apartheid, which was a legislative approach, first founded in Queensland and then taken back to South Africa. So there's some truths there that I think not a lot of audiences and people that we talk to know about, but in terms of those social determinants and how they impact on social and emotional wellbeing and the health of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, I thought that was really important to call out, being that we are based in Queensland, and also that social wellbeing and closing the gap and health and social and emotional wellbeing is influenced by social determinants, and that plays a part in the story and the narrative. Again, coming back to the point, I'm working with a lot of Aboriginal medical services who have instinctively been integrating holistic practices into healing for hundreds of years. It is about the interconnectedness of existence. How do we exist together? How do we exist with country? How do we exist together as a community? How do we exist together in our own languages, with our own people, part of kinship, part of broader dialects? And about looking at the social context, psychosocial context versus the biomedical paradigm. So we're not only looking at it from a clinical perspective, and I think there's some great speakers yesterday who spoke about, purely looking at illness from a deficit clinical perspective, but looking at it more from a psychosocial context and our place in the world, our place with our families, our connection to our communities, our sense of identity and belonging. So this for me really, when we talk about lived experience, plays such a beautiful role in social and emotional health and wellbeing in terms of how it plays into someone's sense-making of their place in the world. So for us, and focusing on a strengths-based perspective, it's looking at the story of growth. not only individually, but as communities, as broader social organisms, and then as a country together. So we see what we're creating in terms of a framework and the lived experience workforce and coming together as an opportunity for shared unity and resilience to be informed by First Nations ways of knowing, doing and being. So that collective consciousness, that essential understanding that collectively we're stronger together than operating individually. Also looking at lived, the focus or the point that lived experience brings context and perspective. It is organically trauma-informed, elucidating the truth, and recognising that information without context is just a dot. So it's when we add additional context that we understand how all that information together forms a bit of a narrative or a picture, and how that is then valuable in terms of how we can heal. And then obviously truth-telling is fundamental to healing. In order, as human beings, talking together and conversing, understanding the truth of our experience and where we come from and where we're going to is really important to validate our experiences and understand how we can progress towards healing. It also helps to transform unchallenged narratives that are usually embedded in power dynamics. Now, that could be an individual perspective, or if you look at it from a systemic and structural perspective in this country, the power differentials that have really informed the narratives of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and the stories that are told about them and the stories that they believe. Again, supporting the social and emotional wellbeing wheel. The story of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, as you saw in the video, is obviously one of trauma, but it's also one of survival and deep resilience. And just before we go on, I do want to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnabara traditional custodians who were actually featured in that video, just to call that out. It is one about integrating philosophies, again, moving just away from that clinical towards that whole of person integration. Acknowledging that everything is connected. So Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people see the individual and the community and country as mirrors of one another. How do we connect to country? How do we connect to each other? How do we connect to community and our family? It's non-linear and it's person-centred. So you're not moving from A to B to C. It is about understanding different parts of the psyche and who you are as a person. And as Klair will attest to, everything comes in cycles through seasons. And it's essentially about healing. So, working through that process together and coming together through truth-telling brings deep healing. This is just more elucidating again the fact that when we're able to share lived experiences, we can see patterns and we can see the bigger picture as part of a broader context.
For those of us with lived experiences, whether in mental health, alcohol and other drugs, systemic oppression, or social services, our stories carry pain. Yeah, a lot of it. But they also carry something else, the ability to create change. The Western world is only beginning to understand what we have known, what we have always known, that telling our stories doesn't just help us survive, it helps us thrive. When we tell our story, when we put words to pain, when someone truly listens, we shift that memory from the emotional part of the brain to the rational part. That lets us lose the experience, that means that the experience loses its hold over us. We can begin to make sense of what happened and we start to heal. In my community, we often say, and you've probably all heard it, a problem shared is a problem halved, and a joy shared is a joy doubled. When we say storytelling heals, we mean it. It heals our minds, it heals our bodies, and most importantly, it heals our communities. This is why storytelling has been used as a form of cultural healing for millennia, through song, dance, art, and oral history. Storytelling is a gift, and it's a gift we share with you. It's a gift that belongs to this country.
So that sort of brings us to the conclusion of our presentation and opportunity to connect with you today. As we build out the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander lived experience peer workforce framework with the Queensland Mental Health Commission, we're obviously very, very keen to make sure that we gain as much knowledge from the sector. There will be some people in this room who we've connected with, but we're very keen to have input from a shared design perspective into the framework. So we've got these 3 questions up here. What is one actionable step you can take to ensure First Nations lived experiences are valued and integrated into your workplace? What barriers do you see in your workplace, industry or community that prevent First Nations voices from being heard, and how can you help change that? And is there a place for a First Nations lived experience workforce in your organisation or more broadly as part of the industry? We would love to have your informed and professional thoughts on this. So if you do have time, and if you could take some notes or write down your thoughts, we are getting someone to come around and collect those thoughts from the table. So if you just put them in the middle.
Most definitely. Have a conversation at your table, write down any notes, any thoughts, any insights that you have to the questions. Leave them in the middle of your table at the end, and someone will come around and collect them for us to be able to integrate into our work and consultation process for this framework.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you.
I'd like to say a huge thank you to Selena and Claire. That was incredible. So we're going to take just about 10 minutes now, guys. I'm going to leave those questions up for you to have that conversation at your table. If you feel called to writing it down so they can be collected, please do that. And we'll be back shortly with the next keynote speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to move to that, or I'll close up this? Yeah. Okay. I hope you've all had really great conversations at your tables. If you did take some notes, can you please put your hand up, and Kev, our volunteer just over here, is going to come and collect them for Selena and Claire. Just hands up if you've got some notes that you'd like to provide on those 3 questions. Thanks, guys.